I'm on this Reg Kelly table in the wilderness. I want to hit you a deal today called Stay in the Game in Spite of the Pain. Cal Ripken is the man in professional baseball who's played the most consecutive games in a row. I believe he played 2,131 games consecutively, never missed a game. Cal Ripken knew what it meant to stay in the game in spite of the pain. There were times when he had a broken ankle, he was sick, he had the flu, you name it, family problems, death in the family, tragedy, financial trouble, but he showed up at the game for 2,131 times. We have a problem in America right now, and especially in American churches and American Christians. Their pain comes in their life, and they want to quit. They want to get out of the game. And I want to ask you today this question here. Can you stay in the game in spite of the pain in your life experiences, in your marriage, in your family, in your church, in your civic and social duty, in your work of life, in the calling of life that God has given you? Can you stay in the game? Well, let me say this right off the bat. It takes grace to stay in the game. Everybody experiences pain, and pain that you never thought you'd ever experience. And there's all kinds of physical pain, emotional pain. The Bible talks about a wounded spirit who can bear. But I want to encourage you today to stay in the game of life in spite of the pain. Don't quit. Don't give up. There's no Hall of Fame for quitters. There's no Hall of Fame for quitters. Stay in the game. If you're a Christian today, I want to encourage you. You're going to have pain. Jesus talks about being wounded in the house of your friends. You're going to experience pain. You're going to experience betrayal in your Christian walk. You're going to experience any number of junk. You name it, you'll experience it if you stay in church and you stay in your walk with the Lord. And you may experience pain in your marriage and your family. I mean, and it hurts and it grieves you and you weep. But you've got to stay in the game. I'm glad that Jesus stayed in the game. I'm glad that John the Baptist stayed in the game. I'm glad that Peter and Paul stayed in the game in spite of the pain. You read the life of Paul, and there was so much pain. But I want to tell you a little story about a bird named Tippy. There's a parakeet named Tippy, and his owner had Tippy in a little cage, and she was a little parakeet, and she loved Tippy. Well, one day she was going to clean out Tippy's cage, and so she took her vacuum cleaner, took the little deal off the end, she stuck it in his cage to clean out the cage. Well, about the time she did, the phone rang, and she reached over to get the phone, and when she did, she moved her arm, and the vacuum hose got Tippy. And Tippy went right down through the vacuum hose into the vacuum. Well, the lady just went hysterical. She grabbed it, unplugged it, she poured a pop off, and there lay Tippy down inside that vacuum bag, alive, but he was covered with dust and shook up. Well, she, in her compassion and feeling sorry for Tippy, she took him over to the kitchen sink, and she turned the cold water on, and she began to try to get the dust off of Tippy. And then she noticed Tippy shivering. Tippy was cold. And then she thought, well, what can I do? Then she ran and got her a hair blow dryer, and she put it on hot, and she began to blow Tippy with the blow dryer. Now, Tippy made it through all that, and she told somebody about it, and somebody came by to see her and said, how's Tippy? And she said, well, Tippy's alive, but he just kind of sits there in his cage and stares out in the world. Tippy's alive, but he just kind of sits there and stares out of his cage out in the world and doesn't tweet no more, don't sing no more. That may have happened to you. You got in the game of life, you got married, you had children, you got saved, you went to church, and one day you just sitting there happy as could be, and the vacuum cleaner of life just sucked you down into the dirt. And then you got run over with cold water, and then you got hot blow dry on you, and you're wondering. You wonder what happened. Tippy didn't know what in the world happened to my life. Do you think that today? What happened to my life? How did it get like this? Well, I'm going to give you a verse how to stay in the game in spite of the pain. The Bible said in Romans 8:28 that all things work together for good to them that love the Lord, who are called according to his purpose. All the pain that Christ experienced, it worked out for good for you and I. He died for our sins and suffered for our sins on the cross of Calvary and shed his blood. And he endured that pain and that death for you and I, that we could be saved freely. by the grace of God, by faith in Jesus Christ. I want to ask you, are you saved? Have you received Jesus Christ? And let me just say something to you. If you get saved, you're going to find out the Christian life is not wealth and health and happiness all the time. You're going to experience a lot of pain. And but you know what? Whether you're saved or not, you're going to experience pain. And I'd rather experience pain knowing that I'm going to go to heaven at the end of this thing than pain knowing I'm going to go to hell at the end of it. But anyway, I want to encourage you today. Are you like Tippy? You were sitting in the cage of, your little protected area, and all of a sudden you got vacuumed and washed down and washed out and blowed out. Now you've lost the song. You go to church, but you're just sitting there. You're married, but you're just sitting there looking out. You go to work, but you're not happy. I want to tell you something. Stay in the game in spite of the pain. The people who make a mark in this world and for eternity, they stay in the game in spite of the pain. I don't want you and me, I don't want to be like Tippy just sitting, looking out my window, just kind of, duh. Nursing my wounds and nursing my hurt and nursing my pain. Nope. Got to stay in the game. Some mornings you got to get up with a broke ankle and go play ball. Some mornings you got to get up with the flu and go play ball. Some mornings you got to wake up with a broken heart. You got to go to church. You got to go to work. Some mornings you want to wake up and instead of greeting your family with a smile, you're hurting so desperately deeply down inside you don't want to see anybody. But your kids need to see you smile, and they need to see you happy, and they need to see the toughness. And the Bible said, endure hardness as a good soldier of the cross. This Reg Kelly table in the wilderness, I want to encourage you and encourage myself. Let's stay in the game in spite of the pain. And particularly, let me tell you something. You're going to get hurt at church. People are going to say things, do things, but don't quit church. Keep going. God has some wonderful things ahead of you if you'll just humble yourself and say, you know what? I didn't like that, didn't appreciate that, but I'm going to keep trucking for Jesus' sake. Until next time, so long. Stay in the game in spite of the pain.